Well, good afternoon, and I just now turned my camera on because I want to give shout outs not only to the districts that we featured, but also to anyone who has their camera had their camera on through that and was able to not kind of dance to that music. I could not resist the temptation, so I kept my camera off, for which I'm sure most of you will thank me. Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, August 4th, 1 o'clock. I'm Becky Davis, the Director in the Office of Special Education Services, and this is our first monthly call with our districts for the 2021-22 school year. I know that several of our districts have already started back, both with teachers and students, and many of you will be starting within the next couple of weeks. We wanted to go through just a couple of things today with you to kind of get the new year rolling. And if we could have the agenda. Thanks. You saw some shout outs as you entered the call. We would love to feature some of the things that you're doing in the district with each other. And we will be putting together some additional ones in the future. But if you've got something going on in your district that you would like to celebrate, please email us and let us know about it. And we will be glad to feature you at the beginning of each call. We would really like to start each of these calls with some shout outs and some celebrations. I think I'm turning it over to Jill Christmas at this point. We're going to talk a little bit about some post-secondary work that's going on, some updates from our fiscal and grants management folks, some data updates. I'm going to mention reopening plans briefly, give you some information about the new Directors Leadership Academy, our system of tiered assistance timelines, a couple of enrich reminders, and then a survey that we are trying to gather information about fall admin on. And I think I'm turning it over to Jill at this point.
Awesome. Thank you, Becky. We have some exciting things going on in the post-secondary outcomes team that we wanted to share today with you guys, and some things that'll be coming your way. The first thing that I wanted to talk to y'all about is the task. Task team is pulling together a virtual webinar to try and pull together the state or the local teams and get those started again for the upcoming school year. And Tina just dropped the information in the chat. But if you have any questions about that, you can contact her, and she will put her email address as well in the chat. There will be more information coming and a link to the webinar, but we wanted to make sure you had that information so that you could go ahead and save the date. Chris is going to talk to you about some exciting CTE stuff that has been going on and some partnerships, and then Kim is going to talk about some of the work with the credential that we're doing.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Napper, and I am working in collaboration with the Office of CTE. We have a CTE Office of Special Education Task Force. There's a lot of great things going on right now between our offices, so we wanted to share some of that with you guys. The Office of CTE would like to invite you or your stakeholders to a work-based learning summit event that they're having. It's going to be everything about work-based learning. I will, once I'm done showing this slide, I will copy and paste the registration link right there into the chat. And then of course all the conference information as well, I'll put that in the chat. So we just wanted to give you an update on this and let you guys know that they were wanting to invite you or anyone that you would like to come if you have questions about work-based learning. And right along with that, we are also working with our school counselors out of the Office of Student Intervention Services. And we're making these modules and Moodle trainings for our CTE instructors and our special ed instructors. And Anna Duvall out of that office is wanting to know if you guys could give some feedback on some of the PowerPoints that she's starting to put together. And that there's actually a hyperlink in that blue section right there. And I will also put that in the chat. But she is asking for comments or anything that you would like to see in that training. It's a Google document, so it's called suggestion mode. So anything that you put in that document, it won't show up. It'll just be kind of like a comment or a suggestion. But then she's going to go through that with her team and try to get some training out there for our school counselors on matching the IGPs and the IEPs together.
Hello, everyone. I just want to talk a few minutes about the Guide to Work Experience. This summer, we worked in collaboration with the Offices of Student Intervention and CTE. We did a crosswalk. We wanted to ensure that we all have a common language when we speak about work-based learning. So what we did, we tweaked a little bit of the language, as you can see, some with the career awareness activities. It used to be called supporting activities. Those activities will continue, and we broaden that a little bit to include, of course, the transition assessments, strength inventories, learning style inventories, reflective activities. This is a time that students will be doing a lot of research into what they think they might like to do. And there's some resources there with SCOAS and then the virtual library, ONET, of course, career activities, self-reflection. All of these count towards that career awareness activities. So those are very important activities, and these activities should be reported with, in concert, I suppose, with the school-based counselor, the school counselor, because they have to report this with their career person with what they need to do with their accountability report with EDA. So this is real important. And of course, those supporting activities are critical. Then with the career exploration activities, as you can see, that's been tweaked just a little. It used to be just career exploration, but now there are activities. And within those activities, to be included with, of course, the field studies important, mentoring, service learning, job shadowing. And as you could see, what's a little bit different, we put WBL, work-based learning, because these are state work-based learning hours. So this is important. And this should be around 9th and 10th grade, typically 10th grade. Then we have an 11th and 12th grade work-based learning placement. This used to be the career development, but now that's tweaked a little bit and we're calling it work-based learning placement. And that's because that's what CTE uses. And we want to be consistent across all offices with the language that we use. So this is a time we get in our internships, and this is all embedded, of course, in those employability education courses 3 and 4. So this is important as we think about our policies and procedures. We want to make sure that, first of all, if you need to tweak some of your policy and procedures, including your work-based experiences, of course, that's relevant to your community and your school, please do so. And we're also asking that you include your policies and procedures relative to the credential within your regular policies and procedures. And some of you have already done that, and we've been talking this up for about a year, so that's probably already done, but we just wanted to remind you of that. Also, make sure that all work-based learning experiences are put in PowerSchool. Work with your PowerSchool folks with that. And also, of course, the add, action, and enrich to make sure that we capture all the hours that the students are earning. And one question I do get frequently, and I can just put this out there, is, well, what about the student? They earned the hours their ninth grade year and they changed their mind and the IEP team deems another direction. Well, that's okay. Those hours still count. Whatever the student earns, they've earned. I'll be glad to assist you with this as we move forward. I know there's a lot of questions regarding that. Please feel free to ask a question. A lot of you ask me directly, and that's okay. You can call me, certainly email, and you certainly can go through the ask a question within the Credential website and request assistance. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Michelle Williams-Young with the Fiscal and Grants Management Team, and we have just a few reminders for this upcoming year. On September 30th, we have 6 grants expiring, so just a reminder that we're requesting that you please expend all funds prior to September 30th. In addition to that, along the lines of PPPSC, those funds should be expended as well. Carol Props Wright from our team has sent out a questionnaire that should be completed by all districts that have a remaining PPPSC balance that needs to be returned back to us no later than August 6th. This is a reminder too that PPPSC budget amendments should be the exception and not the rule. And the fiscal team, along with the some of the program staff, will work with you to make sure that you are using those funds as you should be. Next slide. Thank you. In regards to the FFY20 or state fiscal year 21 allocations, most of you received additional funds where we went back and recalculated allocations for various reasons, including administrative changes of some charter schools. The GANs for those were due July 30th of 2021. We have several districts that have not submitted their GANs. If you are one of those, please make sure you get those to Carol as soon as possible. In regard to the budgets, as of this morning, we were working with our grants accounting office to try to get those budgets uploaded into GAPS. They are working on that. We expect that to be done sometime around the end of the week. Once that is complete, we will provide you with a deadline for the budgets to be in GAPS for that shoring up allocation. Next slide. Thank you. For the FY21, so the new grant awards, state fiscal year 22, the applications and data sheets went out over a series of days because we were trying to provide you with all the information you needed to complete the application accurately. Those went out between July 30th and today. We had some that came back, so this is just a reminder to please update your information in DEAMS. That is a system that we are using to contact districts. The due date for the LEA applications is August 20th of 2021. We're asking that you please complete the application via the online link and submit by hitting the submit button. Please do not email the applications to us. If for some reason you're having some technical difficulties or issues with that, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you with that. The GANs we're trying to get those into our ART approval system for processing. Next slide, please. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about financial aid. You should have received information regarding financial aid, which is a cost share arrangement between OSIS and the districts to assist with expenditures for private or public residential placements made by the IEP team. Just a reminder that we must have an IEP that covers the entire period of the cost share agreement. So if a student's IEP expires prior to the end of the agreement, you'll need to make sure that you have another one in place to cover that. Next slide, please. So the deadline for last year, so for the 2021 school year's reimbursement request, which is part 2 of the application, that deadline is August 5th. And we unfortunately don't have flexibility on that date because we have to get that in um, as required by our finance department here at SCDE. The deadline for new applications, so for the 21-22 school year, that deadline is August 30th. Or if you place a child after that August 30th deadline, we're asking for the application no more than 10 days after placement. Also, just a reminder with that, we are accepting electronic signatures on the application and on the reimbursement request. Another reminder, the new base student cost effective July 1, 2021, so for the 21-22 school year, is $2,516, so that has been increased. Next slide, please. All inquiries regarding financial aid can be made to Talani Edwards, that's tedwards@ed.sc.gov. Next slide. Okay, and I believe this is where we're going to transition, Carolyn.
Yes.
We have been working collaboratively with Carolyn Bostic and the data team on collecting some new data. So I'm going to turn that over to Marlene Metz to discuss that.
Okay. Carolyn, is there anything you want to say before I talk about PPPSC?
I think I'll take the beginning slides and then I'll cue you and then you can take over from there. Just a little bit as Michelle, I'm Carolyn Bostic, team lead for the data reporting for the Office of Special Education Services. To help assist districts with their proportionate share calculations for their annual IDEA grant, we have implemented a new data report, which is called the PPPSC Data Submission. And that report became effective July 1st. Because this is the first time that this data will be collected, July 1 actually set a new baseline for this data collection. And this collection will include all evaluations and reevaluations. Because this is a new field within Enrich on your evaluation report, we were not able to capture any of the previous evaluations that you were completed to include those students on this report. The first report will be due October of 2022 after a full year of data has been entered. So next year, October 22, when you're working on your child count report, you'll also be submitting this PPPSC report as well. We've added a field a field was added to the eligibility to identify these parentally placed private school children who are eligible but not receiving equitable services. These do not have an ISP. The PPPSC, we've also, because these are five-year-old and kindergarten students, the LRE code is attainable for your school age LRE students. In this new collection, because we have this, like I said earlier, this is the first time that we're implementing this report, so it's a new collection. So as you complete evaluations and reevaluations this year, you'll be populating this report for submission in October of 22. Next slide. Marlene?
Okay. Well, just a few reminders about parentally placed private school children and why we are implementing this change. Your calculation of your proportionate share that you're familiar with and when you submit your IDEA application is based on the number of eligible Friendly Place private school children, not just those who have an ISP and are receiving equitable services. So up until this point, there's not been any way to kind of tag those students in Enrich to help you capture and keep up with those students. So it will include all eligible private school children, even if they are not receiving services. And we're going to use the same date as the child count date, the 4th Tuesday of October. Next. Just to remember, a student is only eligible under IDEA if he's been evaluated and determined to have a disability by an IEP team. But we can identify these parentally placed children by a number of ways. They may have come to you just through your general child find requirements, community clinics, and that kind of activity. They may be children with disabilities who are being served in your schools and then transferred to a private school or homeschool. And then also, of course, they may be those children who you have identified through Child Find in your private schools. Without documentation of the determination, though, you do not count those children in your count of eligible students. And this is a question that has come up a good bit. We might have a private school consultation and the private school says, I have 10 students with disabilities in my private school. But if you cannot obtain from them the data that shows that, you do not count those as eligible PPPSC students. Next. So with the new reporting collection, just like the child count, we're going to report the number of eligible students on the 4th Tuesday of October. And these are the indicator 11 options. And Carolyn, I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add about that.
Nope,
No?
nope.
Okay.
Those are the 4 options that's going to be used to generate the PPPSC report.
Okay. Next slide. This will become a cumulative report, similar to your child count. Once you start entering those students on July 1 who were eligible under this criteria on July 1 of 2021, they continue to be a part of that report in future years until they are found to no longer be eligible. And you're familiar with the eligibility criteria that we use for our public school children. These are going to be the same. Either the student ages out, the student is reevaluated and determined to no longer qualify for equitable services, or they graduate with a diploma. The one that is a little different for parentally placed private school children is that if the parent refuses evaluation or reevaluation, then you do not continue to count that student as an eligible parentally placed private school child. Next. And just a reminder from our application, this is what you'll see is the count of eligible PPPSC students used to calculate the proportionate share includes all that have been identified as students with disabilities under IDEA, whether or not they're receiving equitable services. Now, you probably know that the formula for calculating proportionate share is in your IDEA application. So all you need to do is put in your number of parentally placed private school children. And then, of course, you have your public school enrollment or eligible children based on your child count. Everything else comes from the annual child count. Okay. And questions, of course, you can send to me, to Shauna, to Michelle. I'd also like to add that Sarah Garrett has been helping us a lot with this and is very involved with PPPSC along with the FGM staff. I think that's it.
Okay. Now, data reporting updates. as of now, we still have 14 districts that are having issues with the submission of their Indicator 12 report. We previously sent an email out to everyone notifying them that there were some issues, and we weren't sure if it was going to be if it would have a system impact or not. As it turned out, it was district specific, so we requested that all other districts submit their Indicator 12 report to us, and we're still working with Frontline to resolve those issues in those 14 districts. However, Enrich has assured us that they're going to try to have those issues resolved so that we could so they could do the new year rollover and have all of your information ready for the new reporting year on August 20th, which would make the new reports available to you in your district on August 23rd. As a means of working more closely with the data and the data reporting managers in your districts, we are implementing a monthly data reporting calls for your data managers to answer questions as it pertains to the data methodology, so that when you receive your data reports, you have someone in your district that is knowledgeable of what the report is asking for and to help assist you in interpreting those. The data in your district, along with the methodologies and the calculations. We will have our first call on August 19th. Those calls will be sent to, those invitations will be sent to the data managers, data reporting managers that you have in the DEEM system, as well as whomever is listed as the director for the district. So those are the two roles that will be receiving the data reporting invitations. Indicator 8, we are doing away with the sampling plan. Previously, districts were surveyed every 6 years. We are no longer doing that. We will be surveying all students in all districts, and the survey actually opened on July 1st, and the trigger for those will be whenever an initial or an annual IEP is finalized, they will receive a document with information for them to complete the parent surveys. As I stated earlier, the survey opened July 1st, and the survey is available in both English and Spanish. On May 6th, we will have all districts to submit their Indicator 8 information to us as one last means to capture any families that did not complete their survey earlier in the year or at the conclusion of the annual or the initial IEP. We will do one last mail blurb similar to our current process and send postcards to those families so that they can complete the surveys. The survey will close on June 30th, and hopefully by that time, we will have majority of our families responding to the surveys. And what we will do is share the flyer with the districts so that they could have something to share with those families as a reminder as well. Next slide. This screen that you're currently seeing is a screenshot of what you will see in Enrich at the conclusion of whenever an annual IEP or an initial IEP or annual IEP is finalized. And we have highlighted the parent involvement survey form, and that form will have the survey link, a QR code, as well as a survey ID code for the families to put into the system. Next slide. This slide is actually a screenshot of what the survey card looks like, just telling them that they're participating in the parent involvement survey, and we wanted you guys to see what we were sending out to the families so that if they had any questions, they would have an opportunity to contact you. And I think This slide it shows the survey link and QR code of what they will see when they go to the website. Next slide. I think we're back to Becky.
Thanks, Carolyn. You can go to the next slide. All of your districts should have completed a safe to return in-person instruction and continuity of services plan. I tried to shrink that down into an abbreviation or an acronym, and it just doesn't work. Whoever did it has not had any experience with special ed and acronyms. But the ARP Act required all districts that were going to receive ARP ESSER funds to create and post on your website a safe return to in-person instruction plan. Those are also located on the Department of Ed's site, but those links will take you directly to your own district website. The districts are required to review the plans typically every 6 months through September of 2023 to update any changes, to take into account public input, and then to report on any revisions that are made. Next slide. Please make sure that you're familiar with your district's reopening plan. As you can well imagine, with 80 some odd districts, there are 80 some odd different reopening plans. Some of the plans are very specific and kind of lay out the path through the year. Others are not quite as specific. Regardless of how your district is reopening or what happens during this year, just a couple of reminders. Every student must have an IEP in place that's designed to provide a free, appropriate public education regardless of what instructional delivery model is being used, whether the student is enrolled in a virtual program, a hybrid program for any districts that are going to offer a hybrid program this year, or face-to-face, and the IEP has to include all the required components. You will only use contingency plans if your district or school has to close unexpectedly in an emergency situation and is unable to provide typical instruction. And you would have to go back to the deployment of those emergency continued learning opportunities. The contingency plan are designed to provide reasonable and practicable access to whatever those emergency continued learning opportunities are. And when you read through the reopening plans, not very many address what happens if the buildings have to be closed again. And so for the most part, districts are assuming that they are reopening face-to-face. Some districts are offering a virtual option for students, others are not. But regardless of how the district operates, unless there's another emergency closure, you will be operating from an IEP. Next slide. Lisa Kershaw.
And good afternoon, everyone. It is time for our next cohort of the New Directors Leadership Academy. We are going to have our first session on August the 24th from 10 a.m. to noon. We are going to operate again with the flip style classes, in which participants will receive a presentation or information prior to our live session for review to prepare questions and notes on. And then we'll have the live sessions in which you'll be able to interact with members of our different outcome groups in order to be sure that all of your questions are answers, to go over scenarios, to go over anything that helps bring better understanding on the subjects that we'll be discussing. This year, we are going to focus our theme on all of the indicators. They'll be presented by our different outcomes teams so that you understand what the indicators are, where the data is coming from, what is driving that. We will open up the Leadership Academy this year in our first session with a basic theme that is called What You Need to Know as a New Director. And so we'll have a variety of speakers for that session. If you have not yet sent me the names of folks that you would like to participate in this year's cohort, I am putting my email address in the chat. Please email me if you're unsure if your name has been included as a new director, or if you have coordinators or assistant directors that you would like to participate, and I will be sure to add them to the list. Once we have the list complete, you're going to receive the information as well as the registration link, and you will register prior to each of the sessions so that we can be sure that we send you the invitation to each of the sessions. So again, if you need to send me any names, please send them to the email that is in the chat. If you have any questions, you can also send them to that same email. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the timelines for the SOTA for those districts who are Tier 2. You should have already gotten, and if you haven't, you will be getting it very soon, the 2021-22 timeline. It has been adjusted based on when the final determinations went out this year. And if you find that it's a stressor for you to meet the deadlines that are on there, please talk to your cohort manager, and they'll do their very best to kind of reasonably move some of those dates around to allow you to be able to do the steps with fidelity and be able to actually come up with a really great plan that you feel very confident in. What we did with the chart was that, or the timeline, is we put it in written form and we put it in chart form, because I know everybody has different little learning styles, and some of us like to map it out and see it on a form, and some of us like to have it written out so we can kind of read what the steps are. But you'll notice when you read the timeline that it clearly states the steps that the LEA has to take, and then it also tells you the required steps that we will take. And it goes in a linear chronological order, so it'll be easy for you to follow and kind of know where you're supposed to be. We did change the timelines for the subsequent years because we are going to move up our timeline of when we inform you of your LEA determinations, your final determinations. So once we do that next year, you will get your information sooner. So instead of starting like most everybody started July of this year, you'll actually be able to start the process in April, and that'll give you probably a little more time to get together with your teams if you need to pull people together. So that will start next year, and it just helps you, have a little more time to really gather your data, gather your teams, and really think about what kind of a plan you want to put together. We will say that you can, even if you're not tiered, if you want to do the RCA, if you want to work on a QIP of your own, feel free to ask for that if you haven't received it. You can certainly do that with your own team to kind of help you streamline some of the initiatives and areas that you've seen on your determinations that you need to work on. So while we will be working with Tier 2 districts, we would be very happy to give you the forms for this if you haven't gotten it, if you're a Tier 1 district, if you want to kind of use it with your teams to work on initiatives that your groups need to work on.
Thanks, Sandy. Next slide, just a couple of Enrich reminders or acknowledgements. Carolyn's already talked about the problems with the data collection for 11 and 12. We are working through Enrich to get those resolved. Please know that as with any other error or issue that's out of your control, like a problem with Enrich, you will not be penalized for any reporting delays that are due to these glitches in Enrich. The last update should have included electronic signatures for just about every single type of form and activity in Enrich. Electronic signatures are accepted for Medicaid purposes as well as anything IDEA related. I think there is a tutorial in Enrich on how to access and utilize the electronic signatures. And because the electronic signatures are available for just about everything now, and because of the security issues related to the collaboration portal, we sent the email out, I think about a month ago, telling districts not to use the collaboration portal for IDEA purposes. That portal was developed by Frontline at the request of one of the other modules. I think it was the ESOL, or it could have been the title module, and was just kind of applied as a blanket application across all areas. There is the problem with the collaboration model that any document, such as an IEP, that anyone could download that has access to the portal, could download and make changes on and then upload. And if you were not very carefully comparing your original document with the uploaded document, you might not notice changes. So because of that security risk, we have not been able to find, or Enrich Frontline has not been able to find a workaround or a solution for that. So we are telling districts not to use the collaboration portal for IDEA purposes. Sandy talked about the system of tiered assistance and the changes, over the last year, 2 years, I guess, we've been working to review and revise our system of general supervision. This will mean that we will not be doing the traditional every 6 years on-site monitoring visit. What we will be doing is using our state performance plan and the indicators that are part of that to guide our general supervision activities. So we would be looking at IEPs, for the example, through the lens of Indicator 13. Our post-secondary group is working on a rubric that will be specific to Indicator 13, to the specific parts of an IEP that speak to post-secondary transition. When we do look at IEPs, they will be through the lens of educational benefit. So how do you know that an IEP is designed to provide educational benefit to a student? And you all should recognize that phrase from the Andrew F. case a couple of summers ago. The other way that we'll be looking at IEPs will be through the lens of your tiered assistance and the SOTA process, so that we would be looking at, for example, at post-secondary outcomes. We would be looking at the transition components of an IEP to help you figure out if the IEP contains the right components that would set a student up for better success in the area of post-secondary transition. Early childhood would be very similar. Does the IEP contain the required components that would be necessary to increase the student's chance of improving his or her outcomes? And because of that, we'll have, similar to what we've had with the traditional district on-site monitoring visits, would have read access only to look at IEPs through and other relevant information in Enrich, prior written notices, evaluation reports, those things that would go into whatever that monitoring component is. We will continue to work with Enrich through troubleshooting some of these issues with data collection. If you run into problems or there are things that you feel like would make either data collection or the writing or the IEP process, the special ed process in general, flow better in Enrich, please don't hesitate to share those with us. we, at some time in the future, will be pulling work groups together to look at our IEP system. And we'll take the approach with this that we have with everything else recently to say, let's look at this from the lens of, does this system help us improve outcomes for students? Not from the lens of, well, this is what we've always had in the IEP system, or from the lens of, well, we put this in because we found that this was a problem over and over in districts when we monitored. It needs to be a process that helps improve outcomes and not something that hinders our ability or takes more time than it needs to away from actual instruction and support. Next slide. All right, I think I'm turning it back over to Jill.
Awesome. Thank you, Becky. We need your input. We are looking to see if we need to do a special ed fall administrators conference like we've done in the past. And we have a short survey. It should take about 2 minutes for you to complete. I'm going to put the link in the chat. So if you want to do it right now and get it over with, that would be great. But we want to know, first of all, do you want it? If so, would you like it to be virtual or face-to-face or hybrid? And then what topics would you like? So I'm putting that link in the chat. And if you could fill that out for us, that would be great.
And I think, Shannon, is that the last slide?
It is.
Okay, thank you. I did send out a 2-question survey this morning to try to get information about how you assess your 4-year-olds who are not in a CERDAP or EIA 4K program. So this would be your 4-year-olds that you're providing services to either in the home, in a daycare or Head Start, or in a self-contained special ed setting, but looking to see if you're using the same assessments that the CERDAP and EIA 4K programs do, either PALS, MyIGDAS, or GOLD. And if you aren't using them, what are you using to assess students that age? We are really looking to find an assessment that we could maybe provide to districts and certainly support to help with our with the validity and reliability of our childhood outcome survey form, indicator 7. And so we're exploring some different options and looking at different assessments. If you have an assessment for that age group that you really like, that you feel gives you good student level data that you can use to monitor progress with, and that would give you a good kind of beginning special ed and ending preschool special ed support, please let us know. Again, we're looking for something that we could either purchase for districts statewide or find a way to support some consistency to make better use of our childhood outcome summary form data. There is the interim assessment. Yes, Sherry, the interim assessment memo that has come out. We are working to develop guidance for students with significant cognitive disabilities. It will look very similar to the guidance we provided last year with that kind of pre and post that districts had to administer. Any other students with a disability should participate in the regular interim assessment, just like consider this no different than the SC Ready. We have students that either participate in SC Ready with accommodations or none, or they participate in the SC Alt. We don't have anybody that isn't assessed in some way. So that should be coming out soon from our folks that work with students for significant cognitive disabilities. Other questions or comments? Yes, Joan, thank you for raising your hand.
You know, I'm gonna at least have one question.
Sure.
Can we take a minute and revisit the contingency plan? Because that's something I'm gonna have to do a lot with this before we get school started. But all right, so in our situation, you know, we have very good, you know, one-to-one technology availability. So
Yes.
if we have to close the district or close a school, we flip everybody to virtual. Okay.
Yep.
Does that have to be on the contingency plan?
No.
Or if we can't, if okay, we flip everybody to virtual, then the grid blows up and nobody has internet. That's what the contingency plan covers.
So the first question you ask is, can we continue providing high quality standards-based instruction just through a different format? And if your answer is yes, we're going to continue the same high quality instruction. We're just flipping to virtual. Then your IEP covers that.
Correct.
If, however, your answer to that is no, if whatever emergency happens, school closure, all buildings closure, whatever it is, if the answer to the question, will we be able to continue providing high quality standards-based instruction is no, then that's when the contingency plan comes into place. And that's where you would have to, and I guess the key to that is think of the contingency plan as an emergency plan. It's in the case of an emergency where there's no way through any other service delivery model or any other options that you can continue providing that high quality standards-based instruction.
Okay. Now I know in the early days of the contingency plan and the service delivery plans that we had to come up with when school first closed, I know there was a big concern about, oh, well, this IEP says I'm supposed to get 250 minutes a week of reading instruction. But in the virtual setting, that amount of time was difficult to provide. So we were still providing reading instruction, but it may not have been to the amount outlined on the IEP. So that's how we kind of structured, we called them service delivery plans. How are you going to deliver this instruction through virtual? And then we noted, we put that on the service delivery plan that the amount of time would be less. So, but can we still provide high quality standards-based instruction in a shorter amount of time through virtual? Yes. So to me, my answer would still be yes.
You're right, because the question is, can we still provide FAPE for this student? And if your answer is yes, and in many cases, no, I'm not going to say in many cases, in some cases, for a student that's face-to-face, brick and mortar, versus a student that's in a completely virtual program or school, those IEP, you may not be able to pick up those two IEPs and see any difference in the way the IEP is written or the service delivery at all. But if due to the nature of how you're providing virtual, it's just like when we would have a student that would transfer from Ridgeview High School to Blythewood Academy. The classes at Blythewood Academy were much smaller. They were much more structured. And chances are the students, when they transferred to the academy, would not need the same level of support due to what was happening in that gen ed environment. So you do have to take into consideration what that gen ed environment looks like, and just answer the question, how are we going to provide FAPE in this service delivery model?
Okay.
Instructional delivery.
That helps a lot. I just need to think more on the wording of it.
Yeah.
How to explain it and the wording. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the other thing to remember through all of this is, we sent out the survey last year, I think about March, to ask who had had IEP meetings already to talk about the need for compensatory services. Still nationwide, districts, departments of ed are making a distinction between compensatory services, and those may be required when there was a denial of FAPE. Compensatory services aren't necessarily required when services are delivered differently than what's in the IEP. It's just what everything is going to depend on is whether or not the IEP team determines there was a denial of FAPE because the student didn't get what was in the IEP. So we have supplemental school services or recovery services that we're still talking about and may be for a while. And we're still talking about those for kids without disabilities as well. Then we have compensatory services that would have to be determined by an IEP team if the team determines there was a denial of FAPE. We are monitoring the trends, the court cases across the U.S. that are related to those, and we'll share information as we get it. We did ask our state liaison with the Office of Special Education Programs just this morning if OSEP was anticipating providing guidance as to what FAPE might look like in this changing world, or this world that has changed. We'll see if that happens. Because the world that our kids are going into, even our older kids right now, is not the same world that kids 3 years ago went into. Their opportunities are different, so the way we have to prepare them is different. All right, other questions in our last 4 minutes? Joan, I didn't know if you had your hand up again or still. Thank you. All right, this recording and the slides will be posted on our website as soon as we can get them ready and up there. As always, if you have any questions or any concerns or comments, please don't hesitate to let us know. And we are wishing everyone a great opening of school.
Thank you.